I've started 22 businesses, exited 6, and bought close to 20. Founder, buyer, and advisor. I've sat on every side of the table. And the single biggest difference between the people who build real wealth and the people who just earn a good living is whether they understand equity. Not the textbook definition, the real version. How it gets created, how it gets destroyed, and how it turns years of work into one transaction that changes your life. And the hard truth is that most owners don't understand equity, which is exactly why they leave millions on the table at the one moment it counts most. So let me tell you what equity really is. Then I'm going to give you one test you can run on your own business today. And then I'm going to show you 3 real deals where this either made someone rich or cost them everything. Ask an owner what their equity is, and most of them will give you the wrong answer 2 different ways. The first wrong answer is whatever is left over, assets minus debt, the number their accountant writes at the bottom of a balance sheet. The second wrong answer is even worse. They tell me their revenue. They will say, I do $5 million a year. That is the value of the business. It is not. That is activity. Activity is not equity. The true version is simpler than any of that. Equity is what someone else will pay you to own what you built. That's it. Not what you think it is worth, not what you put into it, not what sits on a spreadsheet or balance sheet. It is what a buyer hands you at close. And the moment that clicks, the way you run your company changes. Because now you are not running it to make money this year. You are running it to be worth something the day you sell. So remember this line because the rest of the video hangs on it. A business that cannot run without you is a job. A business that can run without you is equity. Buyers do not pay for your job. Owner dependency is the most common reason a business is really a job. It is the one I see first and the one I see the most, but it is not the only one. Business can run fine without you and still be impossible to sell because half of the revenue is one client or one supplier, or the books are a mess. All of those are the same underlying problem. Can what you built transfer to someone else, or does it only perform when you're in it? Hold on to that word transfer. The whole thing comes down to it. This is where almost every owner gets it wrong, and it costs them. People believe equity is something you stack up year after year. 20 years in business, so there must be 20 years of equity sitting there waiting for you. That is not how it works. Equity is not a balance that grows. It's a verdict. It gets decided in a moment by one buyer on one day based on what they see right then. You do not accumulate equity. You either built something that transfers or you did not. And you find out the day someone makes you an offer. When an owner talks to me about their equity like it's a savings account, I know right away they have never sat across the table from a real buyer. Because the danger in believing it stacks up on its own is that you stop doing the things that create it. You let the business stay glued to you. You keep sloppy books. You never build a real team because, hey, the equity is building itself, right? Wrong. Then the offer comes in at half of what you expected and you're insulted. You decide the buyer is lowballing you. He is not. He is the first person who ever told you the truth about what you built. Time does not create equity. Decisions do. Every quarter you wait for it to build on its own is a quarter you could have spent making the thing transferable. If you're watching this and starting to suspect your business might be a job dressed up as a business, that is the whole reason I do what I do. I work with a small number of owners and take their businesses apart the same way a buyer would, but before a buyer ever does. There's a link for that if you want it, but you don't need me to run the test I am about to give you. So let us do that first. So let me give you the test. I call it the transfer test, and it is 2 questions. You can run it on your own business before you finish this video. Question 1, if you disappeared for 90 days, no phone, no email, gone, does the business keep running without falling apart? That question measures one thing. Did you build a business or did you build a job? Plenty of owners stop right there. They pass that one in their head and feel good. But there's a second question, and it is the one that surprises people. Question 2, if a buyer looked at your business tomorrow, could he verify everything you're telling him? Clean books, real contracts in writing, customers who stick around because of the company, not because of you. The question measures whether what you built can transfer to somebody else. And this is the trap. You can pass the first test and fail the second one badly. Your business can run fine without you for 90 days and still be a business nobody can actually buy. If your numbers live in your head, if half your revenue is handshake deals, if your biggest client only stays because he golfs with you, none of that transfers. And if it doesn't transfer, it has no equity. It only has you. So the whole thing is 2 questions. Would it run without me? And could a stranger take it over and trust what he's getting? Both yes, you have equity. Either one or no, you have a job with good cash flow. A good one maybe, but still a job. When I underwrite a business the way a buyer would, the same 4 things show up at the top of the list, over and over in order. Number 1, the big one, owner dependency. The business is really just you. We already covered it, and it's first for a reason. Number 2, financials a buyer can't rely on. And let me be specific because this one hides. It's when your internal numbers tell a different story than your tax returns, and nobody can explain that gap. It's personal expenses run through the business as add backs with no documentation. It's the same expense booked 3 different ways across 3 years. Buyer sees that and he stops trusting all of your numbers, not just those ones. The deal either dies or the price drops hard. Number 3, client concentration. When 1 or 2 customers are most of your revenue, the buyer isn't buying your business. He's making a bet on 2 relationships he doesn't even control. He prices that risk in or he walks. Number 4, the trend is going the wrong way. Revenue sliding, margin shrinking, because the buyer's not paying for where you've been, he's paying for where it's going. And a downhill chart tells him exactly where the business is going. 3 of those 4 are fixable. I've watched owners fix all of them, but you have to know they're killing your equity before you will ever do the work. So let me show you what this looks like in real life. A man came to me at retirement age, ready to cash out. Fire safety company down in Florida. His father had started it, so it'd been around for something like 65 years. A real business, a leader in its space, contracts with municipalities, with airports, with government, the kind of client list people would absolutely kill for. And he was sure he was sitting on real equity. I mean, why wouldn't he be? He had made a great living for decades and taken a lot of money home. Then I looked under the hood. He was the business. Every one of those big relationships was his personally, handed down from his father, built over decades. And he ran every major piece himself. The finance, the permitting, the design and planning oversight, the sales, all him. He was doing somewhere north of $1 million a year in EBITDA. He was hoping for a 5 times multiple. And for the sake of the NDA I signed and for keeping it simple, let's call it $5 million. And honestly, if the problems I am about to describe didn't exist, that number was very reasonable, but it wasn't really sellable at any price. Not unless you structured it with a big earnout that forced him to stay on for years and personally hand every relationship across to the buyer slowly so they didn't evaporate, which meant delaying the retirement he came to me to start. He refused. I understood why, but that was the deal the business supported. And the thing that killed it was not the operations. The operations we could have fixed with time and the right hires. It was the relationships. All that revenue was riding on personal relationships, decades deep, with nothing in writing. Day 1 after a sale, every one of those could walk out the door, and there was no contract anywhere to stop it. A buyer looks at that and sees a company that might be worth nothing the morning after he owns it. 65 years of work, a great living the whole way, and almost no equity at the finish line because none of it could transfer. Now, let me tell you about the opposite. Property management company, this one up in the Midwest, even older, going back 95 years. Same kind of setup on paper, decades-long client relationships, the lifeblood of the business. But somewhere along the way, the people running it did the one thing that matters. They took the relationships out of being 100% in the owner's hands and built them into the company. They brought in a real number 2 and a layer of management underneath him. They moved the long-term client relationships off of Mark, the owner, and onto the company team. So the client's main contact was the business, not the man. And then they cemented all of it in writing. Real contracts. Who does what, for how long, at what price, all of it in writing. So when a buyer looks at this one, the picture is completely different from the fire safety company. The revenue does not depend on one guy staying. The client base keeps going the morning after the sale, uninterrupted, because it's locked into contracts with a team that is staying and owning those relationships. I bought that business and I paid full asking price. He knew what he had and he held firm on price. And I paid up for it. And guess what? Of all the businesses I've acquired, this is my favorite one. Now, hear the difference, because this is the whole video in one comparison. Without those relationships moved over and locked down, I do not pay full price for a company like that. The best I would do is spread the money out over time and tie it to whether the clients actually stick, or structure it so the owner is on the hook if they leave, or I just pass. Same age, same kind of client list as the fire safety company. One was a job nobody could buy. The other I paid full price for, gladly. The only difference was whether the equity could transfer. One last story, and this one I absolutely love telling because it is the one most of you can actually live. Seamless Gutter Company in Florida. The owner tried to sell it and got nothing. No offers at all. And the reason was everything we have talked about here. The whole business ran through him. The books were a mess. There were barely any management underneath him. We connected and we went to work on it. We brought in a reliable finance person and a small team to own the books and make them trustworthy. We took the work that was all on his shoulders and handed it to managers. And we gave those managers real authority to run their part, really empowered them. We built the thing he never built. Then he went back to market. This time, tons of interest. And then came the twist. The business now ran so well that he didn't want to sell it anymore. The reason he wanted out in the first place was burnout. He was drowning in it. Fix the business and the burnout goes away. And suddenly, the thing he was running from is a company he is happy to own. So now he has an exit-ready business that is just also a better business. And he will sell it when he actually wants to on his terms, not because he's desperate to escape. Now, let's put numbers on it. Before, if that business sold at all, it was trading at maybe 1.5 to 2.5 times earnings. Once we got it exit ready, 6 to 8 times. Same company, and it took us right around a year. This is the part I need you to sit with. He did not build equity by waiting. 20 more years would not have done it. He built it with a handful of decisions in about 12 months. Time was never going to create that. The decisions did. The transfer test is the version you can run on yourself tonight on the back of a napkin. Would it run without me, and could a stranger trust what they're buying? The deeper version, the one I actually run with owners I work with, goes a lot further. I take the whole business apart the same way a buyer would, and I sort every problem into 4 tiers by how badly it hurts the price. The deal killers first, the ones that make the business unsellable at any number, then the things that knock the price down hard without killing the deal, then the quick fixes, then the polish you do right before you go to market. I call it the exit readiness scorecard. But the napkin version is enough to tell you the truth today. Run it. Be honest with yourself. So now that you understand what equity actually is, the question is, how do you build it on purpose? And this is the gap I see in almost every founder. They build revenue and earnings, but they never build real equity. Those are not the same thing. There's a difference, and it is the difference between a great living and a life-changing check. Check this video, and I will show you the exact playbook I have used across 6 businesses to build equity that buyers actually want to pay for.